You want to start? All right. Well, thank you all for being here today. I'm sure grateful to have all of our speakers here and the coalition we'd be able to create to be able to come together against Prop 126. This is an astonishingly bad initiative. It's a misnomer to call it a citizens initiative because it's basically a lobbyist initiative, written by lobbyists to be able to make permanent loopholes in our tax code forever, while gutting our public education system, our police and fire, our roads, and ensuring that other people who are not connected insiders will see their taxes of different forms go up. This is a terrible idea every step of the way. And we're underlining how bad this is. Our economist, Dave Wells from ASU, just did a study on the effects of Prop 126 if that should go into place. He shows that it will slash public education funding by $250 million each year once this goes into effect with the Prop 301 renewal. That's devastating. This election is about education above all else. I think a lot of people would say across the board, and our schools cannot afford that kind of a hit. Our infrastructure can't afford it either. The study also shows that with our transportation funding that a lot of us in the community have in a bipartisan way worked together to try to invest in. Prop 400 in Maricopa County, the RTA in Pima County, Pinal County, Yuma County would see up to 40% of their funds taken away if Prop 126 is approved. This is not helping anybody here in Arizona. It's not even helping realtors who depend on having good roads, good police and fire, and good public services and good public schools to be able to sell their product. There's literally no one that benefits from this except for a few connected insiders who will get more loopholes put into law. And that's part of the reason I'm so excited to see this coalition building. We've got the Koch brothers and public service unions in the same room, working together in the same direction. We've got people on all sides of the political spectrum, all different roles, who have come together to say this is a terrible idea. Governor Ducey and David Garcia agree it's a bad idea, and I'm not sure they agree on much of anything. That's what we're seeing, is people coming together and saying, we got to take this down. This is definitely a David against Goliath battle, but I think when people understand just how terrible this is for our ability to function as a state and as communities within this state, they're going to be voting no on this thing. So I'm grateful we're coming together. We're going to go out strong and tell people and spread this message all over the state in a bipartisan way and make this thing happen so that we can take down this terrible Proposition 126. Now I'm excited that we're here in this carpet, and I want to introduce Shane, who's the guy who owns Carpets for Arizona, because one of the first ways I started finding out just how bad these loopholes are is in 2007. I found a loophole whereby we pay sales tax on 3-inch pipes, but we don't pay sales tax on 4-inch pipes. I didn't know who that was for, but I managed to get Senator Yarbrough, at that time Representative Yarbrough, the House Ways and Means Chair, to allow me an informational hearing in his committee, Ways and Means. And the person who showed up was Southwest Gas, a lobbyist for Southwest Gas. They tried to argue that because they use 4-inch pipes to deliver their product to market, they shouldn't have to pay sales tax on it. Well, I argued back at them. What about the guy that owns a carpet business? They buy a truck to get their product to market, but they can't afford a lobbyist to get themselves a break. Is that fair? I would argue not. And now I'm honored to introduce you, one of the members of our coalition, Shane, who owns Carpets for Arizona.
Thank you very much. All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Shane Levinson. I'm the owner of Carpets of Arizona. I'd like to welcome you all to my store here in Chandler. As we like to say, we're a small family-owned business, no one over 5'6". Thanks, Dad. I was born just down the road in Mesa. My father, also co-owner of Carpets of Arizona, Jerry Levinson, was born in Phoenix. And our family has been providing both products and services to Arizona for the last 50 years. And we want nothing more than to continue our family tradition of providing those products and services to our neighbors right here in Arizona. Now, during my time in the U.S. Army, I had the opportunity to see many different parts of the country as well as a few foreign nations. And I've yet to find somewhere in the world I would rather live, grow a business, and raise a family than right here in Arizona. Unfortunately, Arizona's status as the greatest state in the nation, in my humble opinion, is not guaranteed. If we allow special interest groups to circumvent the legislative process and rig our economy to create loopholes for lobbyists, rig our taxes, slash our schools, and harm public safety, I fear that's not an Arizona we can thrive in, which is exactly what Proposition 126 would mean for Arizona. Prop 126 would amend our state constitution with language written by lobbyists, bought and paid for by one of Arizona's largest industry groups. Once it is written into our constitution, those special interests will never allow that to be undone, no matter how high sales and income taxes have to go to compensate, or how many small businesses suffer for it, because you know what, they're going to get their money, and they've guaranteed that. Currently, Arizona is a fantastic place to provide a product and service. Taxes and regulatory burdens are minimal, and opportunity is abundant. We all hate taxes, myself included. I do not want to pay a service tax. But to suggest that I or anyone else knows what is best for Arizona's businesses and taxpayers in 2040 is completely wrong. Just look at industries like the home entertainment industry. Just 20 years ago, when we wanted to watch a movie on a Friday night, me and my dad got on our bikes and rode to Blockbuster. Since then, we've had Netflix mail in DVDs, then came Redbox, and now there are more hours of entertainment than we can watch in a lifetime for $12 a month right at our fingertips. Who could have predicted that? In business, as in government, you have to be able to adapt to changing environments. Technology changes, consumer wants change, products change, and economies change. Why are we going to let the lobbyists of 2018 rig our economy in 2040? In a time that our politics is as divided as we have ever been, it speaks volumes that this coalition of politicians, nonprofit organizations, and Arizona's small businesses spanning the political spectrum have all come together, because this is not a left or right issue. This is a special interest issue. And none of us here in attendance wants to see our state constitution perverted by this crony meddling of our tax system, bought and paid for by special interest groups and lobbyists. I'm proud to stand in support of this bipartisan coalition who is unified in their mission to ensure Arizona continues to be the greatest state in the nation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Mayor Giles from Mesa, and I'm happy to be here as part of this bipartisan coalition of people that are trying to get out the message that Prop 126 is a really bad idea. I'm a Republican mayor, but I'm joined by Democratic mayors, Democratic legislators, folks on all sides of the spectrum. And that's because we care about our communities and we care about enshrining bad policy into our Constitution. Let me share with you a little history about Mesa, Arizona. Back in 1945, Mesa had a very thriving downtown. If you look at any historical pictures, you'll see rows and rows of cars parked along the retail establishments in front of in downtown Mesa, literally crowds of people on the street corner. And that's because back in 1945, Mesa was one of the few retail areas in the state. People, frankly, from Chandler and Apache Junction and Tempe, I'm sorry, Mark, would come to Mesa to do their shopping. And back in that heyday, the good people of Mesa said, you know, things are really good for us. We're killing it when it comes to sales tax. And we're also in the utility business. We're making great money selling water and gas and electricity to the people that live in this downtown. Let's be conservative and consolidate what we can place taxes on. So in that very great environmental or economic setting, they said we're going to abolish our property tax in Mesa, Arizona. And at that time, wasn't a bad idea. They didn't need it, and they got rid of it. Well, fast forward to today. Downtown brick and mortar retail is facing a lot of challenges. I'm sure the owner of this establishment could tell you about how he has to compete to survive. And placing the entire tax burden on one class of business people in our community is entirely unfair. I know a lot of us have changed the way that we behave economically. It used to be when I was a child, I would go to a brick and mortar establishment and I would do my shopping. Nowadays, more often than not, I'm up late at night in my pajamas, in front of a computer screen, and the next day a nice man hands me a cardboard box with what I bought the night before. We need to be nimble. What we need is tax reform. We need, and when we do that, we need as many options as possible. And so to enshrine a 2018 model on future generations as to how they ought to provide services and how they ought to share the burdens of government on our children and grandchildren is just fundamentally a very, very bad idea. I have made my living as an adult in the service industry. And so I'm certainly not anxious to add additional categories of taxation. And I think before any responsible policymaker does that, there'll be a lot of debate and a lot of discussion, and it'll be in the context of what's best for the community. But to eliminate even the possibility of having discussions about how the most intelligent way to reform our tax code is, to take those tools away from current and future policymakers is just fundamentally stupid. So I hope that everyone, like I say, even those zealots who want to ensure that we continue to have a low taxing environment in Mesa and our other communities, I'm one of them. I hope everyone needs to understand that this is a bad idea. This will get in the way of us having fair and low taxation spread across the board. So I hope we can get that message out. It's going to be difficult because there's a well-funded campaign that is telling the opposite story. So I hope that those in the media and those in the business community will help us rally around to this is an information campaign. What we've seen so far is that when we talk about this, when we explain what this actually is to people, they quickly understand why it's a bad idea. So I hope everyone in the room will help us in that cause to educate people, to get the true facts and the true potential repercussions, the unforeseen consequences of this bad policy. We need to tell that story. And I'm sure that if we do, we'll have a good outcome on the election. Thank you very much.
Well, good morning. My name is Mark Mitchell. I'm the mayor of Tempe. And like Mayor Giles mentioned, we are a regional economy. And more importantly than not, if you could really look at all the individuals in the different associations that are supporting or that is not supporting Prop 126, I mean, that really speaks volumes. To have both candidates for governor, to have cities across the state of Arizona to say no to 126 really should mean something. More importantly, any initiative that really dictates future generations from looking at how we collect revenue funds is never a good idea by the ballot box. If you're going to have a serious discussion, it's important to have all the stakeholders at the table from businesses across all aisles to see how we can comprehensively have a diverse tax base for everybody. Putting the burden on one specific business class does not do justice for the entire economy in Arizona. As we all know, we're more and more the trend is tending towards the service economy, and it's so important that we have the opportunity as the economy progresses to have different options to make sure that we can continue to provide the quality of life that all of our residents, and no matter what city you live in, what they expect and what they enjoy. It's so important, from public safety to education to roads. In Tempe, we have a transit tax that our voters approved, and this will affect not only the transit for our area, but it'll affect transit throughout the entire region, Prop 400 that we currently have, and we're looking at future generations of how we're going to be able to move people in and around the valley right here. And it's so important that we continue to come together, get the message out. And I can't stress enough how important it is. If you look at all the diverse groups coming together, that does speak volumes. So make sure you vote no on 126 and tell your friends, your family. It's amazing how initiatives, the very individuals that are supporting certain initiatives, this will affect them more than they realize, as well as their family members. Because it doesn't just stop with the individuals behind this initiative. It's going to affect their family members. It's going to shift the burden on the sales tax to other areas. It's so important. And one of the reasons why the cities have been successful, we have a diverse tax base, and allowing us to look at future generations to have the ability to work with all the different stakeholders to set policy is something that really needs to be discussed. So again, I wish you to not vote or do not support 126. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Angela Philpott, and I am a 7th through 12th grade English teacher at Desert Ridge Junior High School and Desert Ridge High School in Gilbert. And I'm here to speak about how Prop 126 will devastate public schools in Arizona. Right now, I've seen firsthand the impact that the education funding crisis that's going on in Arizona impacts our classrooms. We have overcrowded classrooms, we have leaky roofs, we have school buses without air conditioning, we have outdated textbooks and limited access to technology, as well as we've had to cut critical support services such as nurses and guidance counselors in our schools. Prop 126 needlessly takes away the options of balancing our budget and providing funds for our schools, which is damaging to our economy and to the state overall. Prop 126 also cuts $250 million from the Classroom Site Fund, 1/3 of the budget. The Classroom Site Fund contributes to thousands of Arizona teachers' salaries, like mine, and it will impact all of the teachers across Arizona. So I'm urging all of my colleagues and parents who are looking for candidates and also propositions that will put more funding back into Arizona schools to please vote no on Prop 126. The other part, too, additionally, is that Arizona school teachers already contribute $479 on average per year to our classrooms because we're already struggling for funds to get to our students, as well as $843 million affects putting the money into our general fund budget. And 44% of the general fund comes from sales tax revenue. So if you take this option off the table, then you're tying the hands of our government to balance our budget if there's a recession or if sales tax revenues are not as high per year. So again, I urge all parents like myself, I'm a mother of 3 who are in public schools, as well as my colleagues who are support services and teachers who work in Arizona public schools to vote no on Prop 126. And so now I'll hand it back over to Senator Farley to answer any questions about this proposition.
Well, thank you all for sharing your thoughts about this. Let's continue to share our thoughts out in the general public. Ballots drop this week. It's important we get that word spread as far as possible in any way you can. This is a grassroots effort across the aisle in every possible way. Everyone on all sides can come together and vote no on 126. So I'm happy to take any questions from anybody who'd like to ask questions. And we can talk to you individually afterwards also. So thank you so much for being here, and let's go out and spread the word and no on 126.